The rain had just started when I stepped out of the small grocery store, trying to balance my bags and my thoughts after a long day. That's when a police car slowly rolled up beside me, its windows sliding down with a soft hum. The officer leaned out, his expression calm but strangely curious. "You're not married, right? I need your number," he said, almost like he was asking for directions. For a moment, I froze. My heart stuttered, and I wasn't sure if I had misheard or if this was some kind of misunderstanding. I managed a nervous smile and replied, "We're dating," expecting him to laugh or explain the joke. But he didn't. Instead, his eyes softened, and he stepped out of the car, rain tapping gently on his uniform. Something about his quiet seriousness made my stomach twist with unease. This wasn't a random interaction, and it definitely wasn't casual. He seemed to know something about me that I hadn't shared with anyone. As he took a step closer, I realized this moment wasn't about flirting at all. It was the beginning of something I wasn't prepared for. Something that would change everything before I even understood what was happening. He stood there in the rain, waiting for my reaction like he already knew what I was going to say. I clutched my grocery bag a little tighter, trying to make sense of why a police officer would approach me this way. We weren't friends. We had never spoken before, at least, not that I remembered. But the way he looked at me buddy searching made it feel like this wasn't our first encounter. "I'm not here to scare you," he said quietly, almost reading my thoughts. "I just need to ask you something." Privately, his voice was calm, but there was a tension beneath it, like he was choosing each word carefully. I glanced around, half expecting someone else to appear, someone who might explain what was going on, but the street was empty, the rain masking all other sounds. He motioned toward the side of the building, away from the parking lot lights. I hesitated. Something inside me whispered that following him was a risk, but another part of me needed answers. Why me? Why tonight? As I slowly stepped toward him, he lowered his voice even more. "This isn't about dating," he said. "It's about something you saw, even if you don't realize you saw it." His words sent a chill through me, leaving a question hanging in the air that I wasn't sure I wanted the answer to. My steps slowed as his words echoed in my head. Something I saw. I searched my memory, but the day had been ordinary work, errands, nothing unusual. Yet the officer watched me like he was waiting for a truth I didn't know I carried. The rain softened, leaving only the quiet between us, thick enough to feel. "When did I see something?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he glanced toward the street, studying every passing shadow. His unease made my chest tighten. "Earlier this week," he finally said, "near the old bus stop by the river. You were there for a few minutes. That's all it takes." I blinked. I had been there waiting for a ride, scrolling through my phone. It had felt harmless, normal, but the way he described it, it sounded like I'd stepped into something bigger, something quietly dangerous. He continued. "Someone else was there too. Someone we're trying to find." His tone was low, almost protective. Part of me wanted to walk away, pretend none of this involved me, but another part needed to know what I had accidentally crossed paths with. Before I could ask more, he looked over my shoulder, his expression sharpening. "Don't turn around," he murmured. "They might still be watching." My breath caught as his warning settled in. I could feel the weight of someone's unseen presence behind me, even though I kept my eyes fixed on the officer. His jaw tightened, and he stepped just slightly closer, positioning himself between me and whatever he thought was lurking in the dark. The air felt heavier now, like the night itself was listening. "Just stay calm," he whispered, though his own voice carried a hint of urgency. "If you panic, they'll notice." My fingers trembled around the handle of my grocery bag. The idea that someone had followed me, watched me, or cared about anything I did made my skin crawl. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my breathing steady. "What do they want from me?" I whispered. "That's what I'm trying to figure out," he said. "But the moment you walked past that bus stop, you weren't just a bystander anymore." The seriousness in his tone made it clear this wasn't some simple misunderstanding or routine police matter. It was deeper personal somehow. He angled his head, listening carefully to the faint shuffling behind us. "We need to move," he said, "but slowly. Don't draw attention." My heartbeat thudded painfully against my ribs as I took my first careful step. The shadows behind us seemed to shift, and I could almost feel eyes following every move. Something was closing in, and for the first time, I realized the officer might not be able to protect me if things went wrong. The officer moved beside me, guiding me with the smallest gestures, but every step felt louder than it should. My heartbeat was so strong, it drowned out the rain. I tried not to look terrified, even though fear sat sharp in my throat. We were almost at the corner of the building when the officer suddenly stopped. His hand lifted slightly, signaling me to freeze. "There's more than one," he murmured, his voice barely a breath. "Two, maybe three." A cold wave rushed through me. I hadn't heard anything, no footsteps, no voices yet, he seemed certain. Before I could ask how he knew, his radio crackled softly, just once, then died as if someone had cut the signal. His eyes widened just enough for me to notice. "That shouldn't happen," he whispered. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice shaky. "It means someone tampered with our communication," he said. "They're closer than I thought." Before I could react, a phone vibrated in my pocket, my phone. I didn't remember touching it. The screen lit up through the fabric, glowing faintly. I hadn't called anyone. I hadn't opened any app. Don't take it out, he warned quickly. If it's them, they already know where we are. But the buzzing didn't stop. It grew stronger longer, like a signal demanding I answer, and then he whispered, tense and stunned. I didn't tell you the scariest part yet. They're not after you. They think you're helping me. The buzzing in my pocket finally stopped, leaving a strange emptiness in the air. The officer took a slow breath, then gently pulled me behind him as we reached the edge of the building. For a moment, everything went quiet. No footsteps, no shadows shifting, nothing but the soft drip of rain. It felt like the world was holding its breath. We're ending this now, he said, his voice steady but fierce. Just stay behind me. Before I could respond, a figure stepped out from the alley. Then another. Their movements were calm, deliberate, like they weren't afraid of being seen anymore. The officer squared his shoulders. You followed the wrong person, he said firmly. Let them go. I'm the one you want. One of the figures laughed softly. We know, he said. That's why we used them to find you. My stomach twisted as the truth snapped into place. I wasn't the target, I was the bait. The officer moved fast, pushing me toward the streetlights while he confronted the men. A shout echoed, followed by the blur of movement. My legs carried me forward on instinct, and just as I reached the sidewalk, the men scattered, vanishing into the dark as if they had never been there at all. The officer caught up to me, breathless but safe. It's over, he said. They won't come back tonight. Relief washed over me until my phone lit up again. Displaying a message from an unknown number, the officer took the phone gently from my hand, reading the message with a frown. Even though the danger had passed for the night, the tension still clung to both of us. He walked me to his car, insisting on driving me home so I wouldn't be alone. As we drove through the quiet streets, he finally explained everything. The men had been under investigation for months, moving silently through the city and avoiding every camera. When I accidentally crossed paths with them at the bus stop, they assumed I was connected to him, someone helping the police. That single misunderstanding had pulled me into a world I never meant to enter. When he dropped me off, he reassured me the case would be handled, and that I wouldn't be left unprotected. You didn't do anything wrong, he said softly. You were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Over the next few days, life slowly returned to normal. The fear faded, replaced with a strange gratitude. I learned how small moments walking past a bus stop, noticing the wrong person, can change everything. And even though the message on my phone lingered in my mind, I knew one thing for sure. Sometimes the people who step into your life unexpectedly are the ones who make you feel safest, even in the middle of something you never saw coming.